Hello readers and writers, I'm MJ, and today we're going to be talking about 10 new science fiction releases that I'm excited about. These books are all releasing in the second trimester of 2023, so June, July, and August. Moving forward, I will include May in here, but since the timing of starting my YouTube channel, that didn't happen. So my plan for this series is to read 10 science fiction books, or to find 10 science fiction books each trimester that I'm excited about, and then read them and then provide feedback back for them in a different video. However, for this video, I did actually find 12 science fiction books that I'm really excited about and couldn't narrow the list down. So we're actually having 12 books on the list for the first trimester. So let's get into them. So the first book I'm excited about is Translation State by Anne Leckie. And this releases on June 6th, and it's set in the same world as the Murderbot series, even though it is a different, it's following different characters. And the description reads, Kven was created to be a procedure translator, the pride of their clade, and they always had a clear path before them. Learn human ways, and eventually make a match and serve as an intermediary between the dangerous alien procedure and the human worlds. The realization that they may want something else isn't optimal behavior. It's the type of behavior that results in elimination. But Kven rebels, and in doing so, their path collides with those of two others. Anae, a reluctant diplomat whose dead grandmem has left heir an impossible task as an inheritance, hunting down a fugitive who has been missing for over 200 years. And Reet, an adopted mechanic who is increasingly desperate to learn about his genetic roots, or anything that might explain why he operates so differently than those around him. As a conclave of the various species approaches and the long-standing treaty between the humans and the procedure is on the line, the decision of all three will have ripple effects across the stars. Masterfully merging space, adventure, and mystery in a poignant exploration about relationships and belonging, Translation State is a triumphant new standalone story set in the celebrated Imperial Rodich universe. So obviously I'm excited about this because Anne Leckie wrote it. I love the Murderbot series, and so to read something else set in the same world, I'm all here for. Also love the genderqueer rep. Yeah, there's robots with genderqueer, but that representation is actually also being translated into humans, which I love. And it does sound like there's going to be neurodivergence rep in this novel. So this is one of the books I am most excited about. The next book, I believe, is an indie release, and it is Afterthought by Nate Eckman, and it releases on June 15th. Afterthought is an electrifying and unforgettable dystopian thriller that imagines what society would look like after America's second Civil War. In the wake of unspeakable violence, the United States adopts technology to ensure everlasting peace. But one woman, Ada, uncovering her family's recanted past and a surveillance company's role in the war, pushes the nation to the brink of an even bloodier conflict. What follows is the immersive account of our heroine, who realizes that she's more than a victim of the last Civil War. She's the arbiter of the first neutral war. Though through the journey, Ada struggles to comprehend fact from fiction, her knowledge, though a heavy burden, ultimately empowers her to brave world-altering decisions. Afterthought is a tale for our time which confronts readers with conversations of censorship and punishment, the necessity and danger of free speech, and horror we may face as technologies become indistinguishable from humans. It just sounds like an amazing read, and I was very excited to find an indie release that made it to this list. So, because you don't always know when they're releasing. The next story that's on this list is a companion novel to, or another companion novel, this time to Firebreak, which is a science fiction story I read like last year or the year before and absolutely loved. And this book is Flight and Anchor. It is by Nicole Cornhair Stace, and it releases on June 13th. Young Sec Ops operate operatives 06 and 22 were about to be sent out for their first military engagement. Just a few years earlier, they were child refugees of a corporate civil war. Stalaxis modified them into super soldiers, but 06 and 22 have escaped their prison barracks and entered a city that they can barely remember. In the dead of winter, they sleep in an abandoned shipping container and scavenge for resources. The director of the Stalaxis Super Soldier program knows that 06 and 22 are gone, where they are, and that she has no easy way of retrieving them. The director also knows that if she sends anyone after them, there will be a bloodbath, or at least a great deal of bad press. But all operatives' days are numbered. 06 and 22 must make a terrible choice: their freedom or each other. I think this is an amazing world. If you have not read Firebreak, I definitely recommend that you pick it up. And it was just a complete 5-star read. And even though they're companion novels, I do think it would get build the world for then going and starting Flight and Anchor. So the next book I'm also very excited about. It is The Infinite Miles by Hannah Ferguson. And basically this is like a reimagining of like what if Doctor Who is real, but it's not Doctor Who. And it just sounds so exciting. So the description is, 3 years after her best friend Peggy went missing, Harper Sterling is lost. Lost in her dead-end job, lost in her grief. All she has are regrets and reruns of her favorite science fiction show, Infinite Odyssey. Then Peggy returns and demands to be taken to the Argonaut, the fictional main character of Infinite Odyssey. But the Argonaut is just that, fictional, until the TV hero himself appears and spirits Harper away from her former best friend. Traveling through time, he explains that Peggy used to travel with him, but is now under the thrall of an alien enemy known as the Incarnate, one that has destroyed countless solar systems. He leaves Harper in 1971. Stranded in the past, Harper must find a way to end the Incarnate's thrall without the help of the Argonauts. But the cosmos are nothing like the Technicolor stars of the TV show she loves, and if Harper can't find it in herself to believe in the Argonaut, in Peggy, and most of all in herself, she'll be the Incarnate's next casualty, along with the rest of the universe. And it just sounds so much fun. I think like last year finished watching all of Doctor Who, at least the new part of Doctor Who, and I didn't think I would like it, but I really ended up enjoying it, so I'm really excited to read a book like almost like fan fiction of the universe. I read John Sklasky's Red Shirt, which is basically the same thing. Well, I don't know if this is the same thing, but has a similar premise for Star Trek, where it's like based upon like being in the world of Star Trek, like the TV show is real. Anyways, I really loved it, and I'm hoping I'll really love this one as well. So the next book is The Archive Undying by Emma Miko Kingdon, and it's also in June 27th. June is a huge book, or a huge month for book releases, specifically for science fiction. Alright, so the description for this book is, when the robotic god of Kunmo went mad, it destroyed everything it touched. It killed its priests, its city, and its wondrous works. But in its final death throes, the god brought one thing back to life, its favorite child, Sunai. And for the 17 years since Sunai has walked the land like a ghost, unable to die, unable to age, unable to forget the horrors he's seen. He's run as far as he can from the wreckage of his faith, drowning himself in drink, drugs, and men. But when Sunai wakes up in the bed of the one man he should never have slept with, he finds himself on a path straight back to the world of gods and machines. The Undying Archive is the first volume of Emma Mika Kingdon's Downworld Sequence, a sci-fi series where AI deities and brutal police state clash, wielding giant robots, steering by pilot priests with corrupted bodies. I mean, how amazing is that? One, it's queer. Two, I'm really fascinated with this idea of AI deities, and I'm really excited to explore this world. Also, in June, releasing June 27th, is Whether Violent or Natural by Natasha Calder. Trigger warnings, this does have plague references in it, but the description reads, years after complete antibiotic resistance has brought about global devastation, Kit ekes out an existence on a remote island alongside the taciturn Craven, who has more recently fled the mainland. With once curable diseases running riot, desperate measures are in place there. Those not yet infected are given experimental vaccines, and those for whom it's already too late are cold. But Kit and Craven are safe, protected on their island by a collapsing castle that holds a greenhouse and a well-stocked bunker within its ruins. When a woman washes ashore, near drowned but clinging to life, the question of her fate threatens the fragile balance of Kit and Craven's isolated world. While Craven wants to keep her alive, Kit isn't so sure, and there's more to wrestle with. Kit and Craven each have their secrets they have been keeping both from each other and from themselves. As the crisis brought about by a drowned woman's appearance consumes them, the fiction of their shared existence crumble and the truth begins to emerge. So this book is compared to Piranesi, which I absolutely loved, but does not necessarily have a traditional narrative. So I'm very interested to see why there is a comparison to that and where this story is going to go. But definitely all here for it. So finally moving into July 11th, Splinters in the Sky. And the description for this book is: the dust has just settled in a felled war of conquest between the Holy Barbarian Empire and the Amish Republic. But the last empire's surrender means little to the lowly scribe like Inton. All she wants is to quit her day job and expand her fledgling tea business. But when her lover is assassinated and her sibling is abducted by Imperial soldiers, and Inton abandons her idyllic plans and weaves her tea tray up through the heart of the Valbarian capital. There she will learn just how far she is willing to go to exact vengeance, free her siblings, and perhaps even secure her homeland's freedom. So we definitely have a reluctant hero here, and I just think the juxtaposition between having to be the hero and just wanting to settle down into a quiet life of being a tea shop owner is going to make for a really great narrative. The Deep Sky by Yumi Katsai releases on July 18th, and this is a debut sci-fi thriller, it's set in space, which is even better. So they left Earth to save humanity. They'll have to save themselves first. It is the eve of Earth's environmental collapse. A single ship carries humanity's last hope. 80 elite graduates of a competitive program who will give birth to a generation of children in deep space. But halfway to a distant but livable planet, a lethal bomb kills 3 of the crew and knocks the Phoenix off course. Asuka, the only surviving witness, is an immediate suspect. Asuka already felt like an imposter before the explosion. She was the last picked for the mission. She struggled during training back on Earth, and she was chosen to represent Japan, a country she only partly knows as a half-Japanese girl raised in America. But estranged from her mother back home, the Phoenix is all she has left. With the crew turning on each other, Asuka is determined to find the culprit before they all lose faith in the mission, or worse, the bomber strikes again. Now we've moved into August releases, and this is The Never-Ending End of the World by Anne Christie. Coco Wells hasn't seen another living person since she was a teenager. All of Manhattan is reliving the same few seconds, minutes, or hours on loop, and they have been for years. Everything looks normal from a distance, but up close, it's a nightmare. Coco's a survivor. She scavenges for food, reads, and most importantly, avoids loopers. They ignore her, but only as long as she's silent. She's learned the painful lesson that a broken loop can mean death. After 8 years of solitude, learning to survive and precisely timing the loops that weave through the city, Coco wonders what lies beyond New York and what has become the rest of the world. As she leaves home for the first time, one question haunts her above all. Am I the only one left? I just think that this is an amazing premise, and very intriguing world building. So kind of like this end of the world, but also this question of why is everyone time looping? And I'm here for it. So releasing August 15th is More Perfect by Temi O. And this is compared to Becky Chambers and William Gibson, which is a fascinating concept. But it's also a Greek myth retelling, so a science fiction Greek myth retelling. So, using the myth of Eurydice as a structure, this riveting science fiction novel is set in a near-future London, where it has become popular for folks to have a small implant that allows one access to more robust social media experience directly as an augmented reality. However, the British government has taken oversight of this access to an extreme, slowly tilting towards a dystopian overreach, all in the name of safety. I think this is extremely relevant as our technology starts to move to more augmentation. I mean, we're definitely not at bioimplants yet, but I mean, it's not foreseeable that we'll get there. But also this political tempering or control of social media, that is a very, very recent conversation, was something that's currently ongoing, at least in the United States. And so I'm very interested to see how Temio represents this in their novel. So releasing August 29th is Where Peace is Lost by Valerie Valdez. 5 years ago, Kalina Gardovas lost everything in the war against the Pale Empire. Now Kelgardia is just another refugee living in the edge of an isolated star system. No one knows she was once a member of an order whose military arm was disbanded and scattered across the galaxy. And no one knows that if her enemies found her, they may destroy the entire world to get rid of her. Kel's past intrudes in the form of a long-dormant Pell war machine, suddenly reactivated. If the massive automaton isn't stopped, at best it will carve a swath of devastation that displaces thousands of people. At worst, it will kill every sentient creature on the planet. When two strangers offer to deactivate the machine for a price, Kel and a young friend agree to serve as their guides. The journey through swamps infested with predators and bandits is bad enough, but can they survive more nefarious dangers along the way? And will Kel's fear of revealing her secrets doom the very people she's trying to protect? Yeah, I mean, what more do I need to say? That sounds like very action-oriented, and hopefully is going to be a novel that I'm unable to put down. So, the last book on this list is A Second Chance for Yesterday by R.A. Sin, and it releases August 29th. Nev Bourne is a hotshot programmer for the latest and greatest tech invention out there, SavePoint, the brain implant that rewinds the seconds of our most embarrassing moments. She's been working non-stop on the next rollout, even blowing off her boyfriend, her best friend, and her family to make SavePoint 2.0. But when she hits on the test run, she wakes up the next day only to discover it's yesterday. She's falling backwards in time, one day at a time. As things spiral out of control, a long-lost friend from college reappears in her life, claiming they know how to save her. Afron is charming and mysterious and somehow knows Nev intimately well. Desperate and intrigued, Nev takes a leap of faith. A friendship born of fear slowly becomes a bond of deepest trust and possibly love. With time running out and the whole world of SavePoint users at stake, Nev must learn what it will take to set things right and what it will cost. I really love the time traveling aspect of it, also having a female tech entrepreneur. It's just very fascinating science fiction in here. I'm hoping the relationship between the two is very captivating and not necessarily like romantic, but that's just a personal preference. So what do you think about these releases? Are you excited for any of them? Are there any that I do not have on my list that you are excited for? And which ones are you most excited to hear my review for? So keep writing, keep reading, and until next time.